What's up, everybody? My name is Jacob Hardison, and today we're going to continue our Racer Rebuild series, and we're going to show you how to rebuild your differentials. Let's get straight into it. Before we start our rebuilding, let's go over some materials we're going to need. We're going to need a drill or hand driver with a 2mm wrench, a pair of pliers, an X-Acto knife, some microfiber towels, simple green, differential oil of your choice, and of course a differential in need of being rebuilt. All of these can be found at adrenalinrcracing.com. All right, so swapping views here, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we'll do, as always, is lay down our microfiber towel. That way we're working with a nice clean surface. And we're going to take our differential and another microfiber towel, spray some simple green on it, and then do a quick cleanup of our diff. All right, so you can see nothing super duper crazy just yet, just getting a general clean on our case, our gear, wiping down the bearings a little bit. That way we can work with something just a little bit cleaner. Next, what we're gonna do is I'm going to take my drill with my 2.0, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up this differential. So we're gonna have 4 screws on the top here, which is going to be fairly common for pretty much just about every single diff on the market. So we'll pop those out and we'll open up our diff. Now we have our screws out, we can go ahead and split our diff. This is when you would potentially use your X-Acto blade if there's any dirt or anything inside those screws, but in my case there wasn't, so we'll go ahead and now split this diff. So you can see we're gonna be opened up to some gears here. My seal decided to stay on the cup side rather than on the gear side, which is perfectly fine. There's no issues there at all. So we've got our sun gear on top, some planetary gears inside, and then we'll have another sun gear on the bottom. So there are 2 ways to do this rebuild. The first way is going to be the most quick, simple way, and that is if you're just replacing with the same oil, then you most likely can go ahead, put a rag in there, twist it around, and then get all of that old oil out. I'll show you how I do that. So we'll take our rag, just put our diff right on top, and then we'll just twist the lower portion of the gear as much as we can until we get just about all the oil out. Now for the sake of this, just so I can go over everything, I am gonna go ahead, pull these gears out as I smack my screws, and then we're gonna go ahead and clean each of these teeth individually, and this is going to be the more in-depth way to do it, especially if you're going to be changing oil quite dramatically. So I'll set my spur gear over, we'll pull these out real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get cleaning. So now we have our gears out. You'll see in the bottom, we are going to have, let's see if I can pull this close for you guys. We'll have our remaining oil, a pin, an O-ring, and then of course your outdrive on the bottom side. Just so that way I can show you real quick. You can slide that pin out, pull your outdrive out, and then you're left with just a diff cup. And inside this diff cup will be that O-ring, of which if it's bad, if your diff is leaking, you can go ahead and pull that out, replace it. But in this situation, my O-ring is in good shape. So all we're gonna do is take our rag, take this one here, and I'm just gonna wipe out all of my extra oil. Because my outdrive is still in good shape, I don't need to re-grease it or anything, but if you want to, you can put a fresh bead of grease around the outside of that before we put it back into our cup. And here's where you'll go in and finish up getting the extra dirt off of your bearing or any little pieces of like Velcro or something from your battery strap that maybe got stuck in there. So we'll go ahead, slide our outdrive back in. Sometimes the O-ring will pop out. If that's the case, just take your pliers, push it back in, and you're good to go. We'll take our pin, and this is gonna be a little bit of a juggling act to an extent, but you'll just slide it right into the hole in that outdrive. And now we've gotten the bottom side cleaned out. So we'll set that off to the side. You can see our gear here is going to have plenties of oil residue in it. So we'll go ahead and I'll usually take either just my nail or you take the X-Acto knife and you can clean all these teeth out. And I'll do that for this gear and my planetary gears. One thing that is important to note on a car like the TLR, where you have these inserts, these are directional. So you do need to make sure you put them back on the same way you pulled them out. So to make sure I do that, I'm simply going to pull one off at a time, set it on its back. That way I know I just drop my pin straight down on it and it'll go on the exact way I need it to. But we'll again, just clean all these teeth out. Now we've got half of our gears cleaned. We'll go ahead, drop our sun gear back in the bottom, line it up with the pin, drop my first 2 gears in, make sure they set in nice to where the gear is actuating both my planetary gears, set that back down, and then we'll finish off with our last 2. Now that all our gears are cleaned, we're going to look at our guide pin there right in the center, and we're going to line that up with our pin that is already in the diff. So we need to rotate around just a little bit, take our gear set and drop it into the diff and just kind of work it into place. And then same thing, you'll want to push down right on the center of that pin and rotate, make sure all of your gears rotate in sync. And now we can go ahead and fill our differential with oil. In this case, I'm going to use Ultimate 7000. All we're gonna do is take our differential oil and we're going to shake it a little bit, get that oil down to the bottom, and then you wanna see it just cover the cross pins. Once you have it close, the next thing you're gonna do is take your diff, rotate it a little bit. You take your 2mm, then push your gears back down. As you rotate the diff, you're gonna notice that the oil level is going to lower a little bit. I am going to stop angling towards the camera here. That way I can make sure I keep my oil level, but I'll do my best to make it to where you guys can still kind of see it. So in my case, I still need to add just a smidgen of oil in the bottom. So we'll take our oil once again, rotate my diff around. The gears will start to pop up a little bit, push those back down. And then from here, you can either do a little bit of waiting process, wait for the bubbles to come out, or if there are no bubbles, then you can go ahead and just go straight into your reassembly. The important thing here is that you want to make sure that each of these 4 pockets are going to be full of oil, and then you want your coverage to be just a smidgen over the cross pins. So you can take your 2.0, drop it right in the center, and we're about half coverage on the actual bit itself. See if we can get that to focus. Probably not, but we're about halfway up the actual main bit itself, and that tells me that our oil level is where it needs to be. From here, we can take our gasket, set it right on the top, line up our holes there. We'll set that down. We'll take our main spur gear now, pull our gear off, clean the oil off the bottom, and then same thing like we did on the bottom, you can go ahead and pull out your outdrive, re-grease it if need be, but in this case, I'm good to go. So I'll do this last gear and then we'll close it up. Now I got it cleaned, we'll take our gear, drop it into my diff, get it nice and flat. The reason to do this is that if you do have too much oil in it, what you can do from this point is, now I've got my gasket on because I know I didn't overfill it, but you don't have that gasket on, you can then take it, swipe the extra oil off, and then go ahead and close it up. As you see, our spur gear, it's got just a little bit of dirt around the outside, so I'll clean that up real quick, and then we'll close up. Now we got that all nice and clean, we'll line our pin up, and then we'll play the fun game of line the gasket up with the holes on the main diff. In this case, I didn't get very lucky, so I'm gonna just push down that gasket a little bit. We're gonna attempt to rotate it. If you can't get it to rotate, then you can go ahead, pull the top back off, set it on there. The reason why I set it on the case is that sometimes these don't like to stick to the gear. If it does stick to the gear, great. If not, then you'll just have to try and line it up a little bit easier. We'll go ahead and re-drop, line up our holes, throw our 2.0 back in, and we'll close up. Now we're closed up, do a final wipe down, get any extra oil off. Make sure your diff spin's nice and free, and you're all set to go. And with that, that brings us to the conclusion of our video. I hope it's been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free, leave them below in the comments section, and we look forward to seeing you next week for an all new installment of the Racer Rebuild series.